for being here. I know all of you have been mentioned, so we thank the Lord we have meeting another day. We have another day to grow in the knowledge of Christ. So today is going to be a short, it's not going to be that long. And let's appreciate the Lord. Sister Jane has joined us. For those who yesterday, we remember we said, let's pray for our sister. I hope we are still praying. So let's thank the Lord that at least she has joined today. You know, we're supposed to remember our brethren, and for all those who prayed and remembered her and are still praying for her, continue and pray for each other. Thank you so much. So we are going to just look at a small history lesson in regards to the Christmas. I'm not going to go that deep, simply because it really don't matter to us. It's not going to add or subtract from us. So I just did surface level. And remember, a lot of these things about uh, these gods, there is no Bible for gods. That's truth. So even if you hear this story in another culture is different. Even though you hear of Semiramis, Tammuz, that is that culture. There was another culture pre-existing before that who had another story. There's another culture that came behind that with another story. So it just keeps evolving. Remember something about the gods, the pagan gods. They keep changing. In India, it's called this. And there's a story. There's a trinity in India of pagan gods. There's a trinity. Because remember, they all copy from the original, right? From God. So in Roman, there is a trinity. In the Roman pantheon gods. In the Greek, there is trinity. So everywhere, you're just going to find a photocopy of a story. In Egypt, there was a trinity. There was a day that they appointed for that, So it's not like, even though the stories about the gods, they change. So it's just it's not a truth, it's a fact. Okay, so let us go ahead and start. And Christmas is a day we look at it like the birth. Basically, we celebrate it as the birthday of Christ, right? When you're born, we celebrate it as a birthday, right? From what we have understood, we've been doing. Basically, it's the day where Jesus was born, which is what? Birthday. And in a birthday, you do what? People come together, they hold a feast, there's some cake blowing, there's some eating and merry, there are sodas that day, you bought some good clothes, some good shoes. That's normally a birthday. The parent brings you a gift, that is the day you're allowed to drink a full soda, all that. So now, let us look at the pagan origins of celebrating birthday, because celebrating birthday was not a Jewish custom. Remember, the Bible was given, the culture of Jews was given by God. So nowhere it mentions about celebrating birthday. And we are going to conclude. So remember, birthdays, the origin of birthdays were originally a religious affair. Birthdays were not social. Right now it's social, which is no problem. You can celebrate. Remember, right now under Christ, so long as anything doesn't bother your conscience, do it. You cannot go tell somebody, Christian is birthday origin is pagan. No, if I want to celebrate my child and the day she was born, you are free to do so. So you can't go tell somebody that. No, we are giving you the history of how it started. When they do it, it's just like right now. When the Freemason read the Bible, you can curse somebody with the Bible through the book of Psalms. They are looking for a way to degrade believers. When you read the Bible, you are looking to know Christ. Same Bible, different intention. So understand it that way. So, because this is not one, there are some things in a believer life which are basic, like the gospel. That is, there's no other way to look at the gospel. There are fundamental things that are like hearing the gospel, believe and confess. Then there are things that are secondary. There are things that are secondary, like how a believer should wear. You cannot come and tell a believer in a church, you have miniskirt. You're not allowed miniskirt. You understand? If her conscience, she left that house showing miniskirt is okay, you cannot impose your own conscience on her. That one she'll answer the judgment seat of Christ. You see, those are some of the things. So understand also the birthday that way. In the ancient world, birthdays were sacred, so they were religious events. They were not about personal milestones, and they were believed to be, this is how they understood those cultures that started, spiritually dangerous moments, the day of your birth. It was the time when supernatural forces were especially active. So the cultures that started birthday. And also it was a moment requiring ritual protection. This is when they did rituals. So it was, these are the ancient traditions. These were the moment they did rituals to protect you, because they believed that that is the time spiritually it was dangerous. Now, these ritual protections were meant to appease gods, small g, and spirits. And they were not to honor the individual. They were to appease the gods and spirits. Some of the early people that celebrated birthdays, they were some of the ancient cultures, but the birthdays were seen also as divine in Egypt. Now let me show you the variation. In Egypt, they celebrated them as divine kingship rituals. One of the birthday in ancient Egypt is recorded as early as 3000 to 200,000 BC. And this is when they were celebrating the pharaohs who were their kings. You know, the pharaoh was a man, but when they die, or even when they are alive, they immortalize them as a god, meaning he can't get sick, he can't do this, he can't do this. And that is why during the time of Moses, what happened? When Moses sent the plague also hit Pharaoh. So the Egyptian people were able to see, oh my goodness. So this our king is not a god. He also has disease like us. Because they believed, a narrative was there that a Pharaoh was a god. So the birthday in Egypt culture was only for pharaohs, because they were considered divine beings. A pharaoh's birthday was often marked that he became a god. So that is his coronation, to become a god, meaning moving from human to a god. We can see there are two places. Let me see. Genesis 40 verse 20. There are only two. The earliest record of birthday in the Bible is regards to a pagan, the first mention, and that is Genesis 40 verse 20. That is the first mention. The first mention of birthday is not to a religious person. It says, and it came to pass the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the baker among his servants. So you see, that was his birthday. You have seen. That is the day they were being coronated. And then, so you can understand it, it was a royal and it was a religious and it was pagan. Then we can see in ancient Mesopotamia, where there were the Babylonians. The Babylonians believed in astrology and birth omens. So they believe like, oh, you are born February 13. That is a bad sign. They are those type of people. Oh, you've been born on a Friday in the morning. Oh, well, you are a bad person. Oh, you see, they had those beliefs. So Babylonians believed a person's birthday determined their fate. They also believed in astrology, how the stars were aligned, that it governed your human destiny. You see a lot of pastors in the pulpit these days always say, oh, your star was stolen. Those people, your star, nyota imeibiwa. That means your star was stolen. Those are pagan things. All right? They are rooted because they believe that the star will determine. Meaning is lying, because we have free will. God has given us free will. And based on your free will, things will happen. So now what does the pagan do? They introduce some weird beliefs. Some of the birthday rituals in the Babylonian was consulting astrologers. Just like a lot of, even in Africa, Kenya, we do that. In the newspaper, there used to be a section about Sagittarius. There used to be are you a Scorpio? Are you a Sagittarius? Are you a Capricorn? And then they tell you, oh, a Capricorn can only marry a Sagittarius. Those two people get along. They even look and see who can marry who based on their birthday. This one, they'll get along. Those are those things of astrology. You understand? And it was, they appeased planetary gods. So you can see the birthday in a different culture is still religious, appeasing a god, and offering sacrifices. So they were doing rituals to keep evil away. Same thing like Egypt. Birthdays were tied to horoscopes, not happiness. That is in Babylon. In Greece, another culture, we have, they used to use protective spirits and cakes. So how did they celebrate it in ancient Greece? There was something called Artemis and moon worship. The Greeks honored a god. It's a god who was called Artemis. Artemis was goddess of the moon and childbirth. That is why it was a birthday. It was a god of moon and childbirth. How did they practice it? They made cakes shaped like moon, honey cakes shaped like moon. They placed candles on cakes to represent moonlight, where when you put the candle, and then they believe the smoke from the candle is carrying prayers to the gods. So, everything we do is rooted in what? Some ancient beliefs. It doesn't mean when you do it, you're doing like them. Understand that. This is the origin of candles on birthday cakes. Next one, we are going to the Romans. The Romans used to worship Janus worship. The Romans believed that every person had a Janus. What is a Janus or a Juno? Genius is Genius, which is a male, or a Juno, Juno, female. This was a personal guardian spirit present from birth. They believe in guardian angel present from birth. That was a Roman thing. So when they did birthday, what did they do? On the birthday, they did birthday rituals. And what was the ritual? Offering to one's genius, offering to one's guardian angel. So they did offerings. What were the offerings? They offered wine, they burnt incense, and food sacrifices. In Rome, only men's birthday was celebrated initially. So then they were even more specific, only the men, you see? That's why they even tell you only men can be. Let me move on. Then, celebrating your birthday was effectively honoring your guardian angel. So that is how Rome understood it. Verse 6, among the Jews, how did the Jews view birthday celebrations? The Jews rejected birthday celebrations. They believe life belonged to God, not fate. Because those people, they thought fate. You have been born in this star. Your life will not end well. Eh? You have been born on this day. You. Even as pagans, when somebody is born on a day for rain, you are calling them Nyambura. And then in Kisii, I don't know what they call them. There's a language they call them. Oh, yeah, Lydia. I didn't even know you're Nyambura. But those such things, those traditions, traditions of men that seal you to your fate. That is what I'm trying to say, yeah? So Jews didn't believe in that. They believe life belonged to God, not fate. They rejected astrology, and pagan this is what was accepted. Doesn't mean it's what they did. Remember, Jews were stiff-necked. They rejected rituals. There has been no positive birthday celebration for God's people. In fact, only 2 birthdays have been mentioned explicitly, that Pharaoh birthday, which is Genesis 40:20, and Herod. The only 2-time birthday been mentioned is in regards to pagan leaders. So let's look at the second time it was mentioned, Matthew 14 verse 6. So those are the 2 times. It says, but when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodians danced before them and pleased Herod. Remember the day when she danced and then requested for the head of John to be killed? So that is that one. Both of these 2 times that have been mentioned in the Bible involve feasts. Just like in Pharaoh time there was a feast, in Herod time there was a feast. And they also have execution, because in Pharaoh time he executed. Remember, there was 2 people in prison with Joseph when he interpreted the dream, and I don't know whether it was the cupbearer. Joseph had a dream he'll be killed. So even in Herod time, feast, then execution of John. Pharaoh's time, feast and execution of the cupbearer. So this is what reinforced the Jewish suspicion of birthdays, because you understand? Now we go to the early Christians. It shows early Christians also rejected birthdays. Now this one is a historical fact, not Bible. Okay, there are some of the early church fathers. Some of them are called Origen, not Bible. This is history. Origen in the 3rd century said only sinners celebrate birthdays. Yeah? And then another church father is called, according to history, is called Tertullian. He said birthday customs are linked to idolatry. Why? Because Christianity showed more. So why? Because he's saying, according to what we see in the Bible, it focuses more on the death dates, because it will tell you about the death and resurrection hope. We have come to the end of how we see. They also viewed pagan birthdays as pagan ego raising rituals. How was it Christianized? Not Christianized, accepted? The turning point, basically, how did it change? Because, they were pagan, right? But now these pagan customs gradually got absorbed. Why? Because the religious meaning was taken away. So birthday celebrations became secular. Now when you celebrate your birthday, you are not doing to a guardian angel. You are not burning incense. You are not slaughtering an animal to appease a god. So it became secular. And that is how it was accepted in the normal ways. So I just wanted to give you a history of these my birthdays. So remember, they were practiced by what? Candles. Some of the ways we practice today, candles, when they did it back then, it represent moon fire worship when they're appeasing their gods. So some remnants, some traces of those things, you see them. And then wishes, when you tell the child, blow the candle, make a wish. That was when they were invoking of fate. When the fire was burning, remember in the old culture, they would invoke. And then cake, remember in the Greek, they used to give cakes, honey cakes. So that's why up to today we do cakes. But we are not doing to the spirit. I'm just showing the root of all these things. And then gifts. You see, we give the child gifts. At that time, they did it to appease the spirit because they considered that time as a dangerous time. And then there was a party. These were ritual festivals where people drank, ate, and make merry. But now the birthday has moved from religious to cultural. They are now no longer religious, okay? So now at least you have understood. Now it has moved from ritual to custom, from religion to culture, and from fear. Because remember, these people in the pagan, they did it out of fear, giving the incense. It was not out of love. Right now, when you throw a birthday for your child, it's because you love the child. You're not fearing that an evil entity is coming to take her on that day and you're protecting her. No, you love your child, you have the resources, you do the party. Simple as that. You understand? And finally, we can see that it says modern celebrations. Now, when we celebrate, they are detached from the original meaning, but you get to see the traces of what it was. And now, that one, we have done with that one. Now, also remember something. A historical standpoint, origin does not equal intent. Just because you are lighting a candle does not mean you are giving to a god. You understand? Or that's just the origin. I want us to have this understanding. And also, now you make a decision. A practice can change meaning across time. So now let's move on. Now, what is the origin? So Christmas, what we regard is a birthday of Jesus Christ. The word Christ, as we were told before, comes from, remember, we don't even say Christ Mass. We say Christ, right? Because it's made up of the name Christ and Mass. It's just that the Mass, they removed the last S and left one. Remember, Mass in the Roman culture is celebration of the dead. So Christ Mass, you're celebrating the death, but now you're celebrating it as a birthday. So it's like they celebrate the death. As we don't celebrate the death, we celebrate the resurrection. That's why we worship on Sunday, first day of the week, the day he rose, right? So its origin is that name. Its origin is in Catholicism. In Catholic, remember in the Rome, they used to practice that holiday, right? Where they give to their guardian angel and all that. So an emperor in 325 after Christ's death, Constantine, he wanted to make a state religion, a religion that the whole country could follow. But he understood that the whole country have pagan beliefs. But he wanted them to adopt Christianity, right? And make it a state religion. So what did he do? He accepted the pagan, because remember, in the pagan, they also used to worship on particular day. They used to do those. Now I've explained about birthday. Now we are looking at why December 25th. December 25th is tied to a festival. Romans had many festivals, but among the 5 that were very important was Christmas Day, because they were celebrating the sun. Remember, in that time, there was winter. So when there was winter, when there's long periods of winter, it's cold, right? Now, when winter is starting to finish and the sun starts showing, that means the ice is supposed to melt. So it was a winter solstice. It's the day that the sun starts appearing. So it's signifying to them, hey, days of sun are coming. So they had 5 they had many festivals, but 5 were important. Christmas Day, Our Lady Day, Feast of Assumption, Easter, and the Nativity of St. John. Those were among the 5. All these were based on Babylonian. There was another religion before the Romans took it over called Babylon. Babylonian is where now you get the story about the gods. Now this, because it's not Bible, is a history fact. I am going to read for you a scholarly paper. Remember, this is not Bible. This is ancient historians have written. But this is based on one tradition. This is not everybody believe this. If you go to Greece, they had another story. So this Semiramis was a Babylonian tradition that was adopted by Rome. It was a trinity. So let me read for you guys. This is written by, to give credit to the person, Bible study by who? Not Bible study. Who wrote this article? Oh, Arthur. I don't see the author's name. But let me read it for you. But it's faithwriters.com. You can see a history of this. It says, most people will be aware of the claims made regarding Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. Nimrod was a man, Semiramis is a woman, and Tammuz, who are identified as gods. Remember, Babylonian culture are pagan, so their gods were given human identities. These three characters, because remember, this is the religion before Rome. Understand? These three characters being the start of pagan sun god worship, sun, S-U-N, throughout the world. There are actually a few different stories about the pagan trinity, as they are sometimes called. The most popular version is that Nimrod and Semiramis were king and queen of Babylon. They ruled the people and turned them against God. However, Nimrod eventually died, and Semiramis, in a desperate attempt to hold on to her throne, made a plan that would lead to her retaining the throne, but would elevate her to that of a goddess. What did she do? The Nimrod has died. Semiramis claimed that after Nimrod had died, after that guy, the king had died, that he ascended and became a god, the sun, the S-U-N. Because the sun, God himself, he became the sun god. So then she told the people that her son, which depending on which version is being told, was conceived before Nimrod died. That's one version. Another version says that when Nimrod died, you remember Indians believe in reincarnation, that he was reincarnated as the sun god and that he impregnated Semiramis through the rays of the sun. She was impregnated by the sun. So maybe you are sitting outside with your chair, enjoying some sunshine. She became pregnant. So that's what she's saying. She was impregnated by the rays of the sun when she's enjoying some sunshine. Then, these stories of pagan, there are many. So remember, all this has to do with what? S-U-N. Don't forget that date, 25th. Then after she was impregnated, she would later marry her son, incest. Why? Because whom she called Tammuz. Because why did she marry her son? Because she's saying that was Nimrod, that was her husband who has been reincarnated as her child. So she marries her child, which is why some people incorrectly say that the story has Nimrod marrying his mother. In some versions, Tammuz is killed by a wild pig. In some versions, he's cut up into pieces. The cutting up into pieces and spread over the world is more often stated as to how Nimrod met his death. Now let's almost finish. With Semiramis collecting his parts. So the mother, some of the versions of this is the mother collects the part of her cut up child, and then she finds all the part of his male genitalia. So she collects his male sexual organ, which prompts her to build an obelisk. Guys, do you remember those obelisks? They are in Nairobi. Remember those buildings I show you? They are in Nairobi, like 3. In Tanzania, I showed you. Let me see if you remember. Sister Jane remembers. Remember, I posted it on this. I think it was some months ago. This is the source. It represents a male reproductive organ. So these all come from ancient things. Some versions have Semiramis commanding 40 days of mourning for Tammuz. Why? Because he has been cut up. Do you know that is also mentioned in the Bible as an abomination? Why? Because some Jews were mourning for Tammuz. Remember, we have heard of the unholy trinity. Nimrod, Semiramis as the woman, and what's her name? Tammuz as the child. They believed that this child was conceived on December 25th through the sun, right? He was conceived through the sun. So when they're celebrating these things, I think it is Jeremiah 8. Let me show you. Jeremiah, is it Jeremiah? Jeremiah chapter 8. Yeah, it's one of these. Tammuz. Let me type it, please, guys. Tammuz. Yeah, Ezekiel 8:14. I was in the wrong one. Ezekiel 8:14, where God considers, he was saying, come see a vision of the Israel. He was showing Ezekiel a vision. In one of the vision, if you read the whole of that Ezekiel 8, the Israelite had started worshipping pagan. These same Israel who have given us Bible, they had abandoned their Bible and started worshipping pagans. So look at one of the vision Ezekiel saw. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Guys, have you seen that in the Bible? Why they weep for Tammuz? Because the way to worship the Tammuz, have you seen the verse, guys? Ama Muniski. Oh, Ino has seen. Okay, let's move on. So that verse, if you read the chapter, they saw an abomination. Why? Because one of the ways pagans used to worship Tammuz, remember they said he had been killed by, some say he had been cut into pieces, is they used to mourn. Semiramis made everybody mourn. That was a way of worshiping that god. And now you can see even Israel were practicing that thing to remember Tammuz. And God called it an abomination. So why am I bringing that story up? To show you that this date that we call Christmas, the Babylonians, that was the date that the God called Tammuz was born, and it was December 25th. You understand? And they called him the sun god, S-U-N, not S-O-N. So no, this one. Then also there was also a feast during that time. Now, this is a mixing of different cultures. You understand? That's why I'm like, it's not even important to us, but it's good to know some background. There was also a festival that was held called Saturnalia. Remember the planet Saturn, the one that has three rings? So also it was celebrated around that time, December 17th to December 25th. And this was in line with the winter solstice. It was one of the shortest day of the year, and it symbolized the rebirth of the sun. Meaning the winter is ending. So now, because winter you could not see no sun, right? So now the winter is coming forward. Now, major rituals during this Saturnalia, you are given freedom of speech. People were allowed to gamble. If you are a master and you had a slave, you could reverse the roles. So it was a day of no control. You know, the way the festive seasons are, people have no control. They spend their money, they do this. So this was that type of how they celebrated it. People would exchange role. If you are a master, you become a servant. Masters wore casual clothes. Authority figures relaxed discipline. So that is part of it. Gambling, which was normally illegal, was made legal. It was allowed. Games, intoxication, and increased bad behaviors. Another practice they did in Saturnalia, which is this Christmas Day. Remember, you see Christmas Day, but that time it was Saturnalia. Another gift was gift giving, and the small figurines and food. Those were the gifts. Candles symbolize returning after darkness. Light is coming, meaning the sun is coming. Because remember, winter, there was no sun. And that there was hope during winter. How did they do? The public feasting, banquets, street parties, open houses, singing and shouting. And the greeting at that time, they used to greet each other. Lo, Saturnalia. That is how they used to say hi during Christmas. Now let us moral for the society. They said Saturnalia served as releasing social tension, temporary relaxing, allowed controlled chaos, and a psychological relief from winter. And that is how the Romans viewed this Saturnalia. Because remember, they were doing agriculture. So they were happy the sun was coming. They were ready to start planting and get crops. Okay, so remember, that is how this festival of Saturnalia was practiced in Rome before they became Catholic. This used to be a feast in the Roman culture called Saturnalia, and it was practiced on December 25th. So when that Constantine wanted to make a religion, because he had seen the apostles were gaining a lot of followers through preaching the gospel. So Constantine wanted also to be a part of that. So what he did to force the whole of Rome, he created a religion, Roman Catholic Church. And he told those people who practice Saturnalia, don't leave what you are doing. Enter with that. Assimilate that into this. So that is how now you got Christmas, which is practiced in the same way, celebrating. And now because there was a story about Tammuz being born by the sun. Now, because now they want to enter Christianity, and Constantine want the people to be together. So instead of saying sun, S-U-N, he said he give it Christian name. This is when Son of God, Jesus Christ, is born. So now everybody was like, and that was in the year 325 after Jesus died. So if I say son right now, you don't know whether I'm saying S-U-N or S-O-N, right? You don't know. So that is how he was able to get the pagans to join the state church and agree. Because he told them, you don't have to stop what you're doing. Come in like that, but have this religion, continue practicing what you are practicing. So now Saturnalia, comparison, it was a pagan festival. Christmas, it has now converted to a Christian feast. Saturnalia, there was a god called Saturn. Christmas, we tend to attribute it to Jesus Christ. Saturnalia, how it was celebrated, they would reverse the roles. A master become a servant, all that. A mother, maybe a child become the parent become child. And that's how they celebrated that festival. In Christmas, it says moral reflection. I don't know how that true is. Saturnalia, gambling and excess, social chaos. In Christmas, we go to church. We remember Jesus' birth. You understand? We try to remember how the manger and all that, right? So you can see some of the practices overlap. Some borrowed from each other to give that holiday. And some of the things practiced in Christmas now in the modern society. Now, that's what I'm looking at. Right now, in the modern society, we have seen Christmas. We have seen it's about those deities. We're not going to go deep into that, but you have understood. Every culture, even the Indian culture, they have something. They have something showing mother, father, child. And that is why, even if you go in the Roman Catholic Church, you see they took that statues that they used to do in Saturnalia, where it showed Nimrod, Tammuz, and who? And Semiramis. They show you, they say this is Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus. But now, majority of the statue, you always see, yeah, they show you, they took Christianity things and bandage them on something that they used to do. But we know that this pagan religion, they got that Trinity from where? They copied God. You have to understand that. So they were making their many stories so that they can deceive many. They make a photocopy of God's story. You understand? Just like they are fake gospel, where somebody can hear a fake gospel and think they're saved and they're not. Try to understand it that way. So this story of Trinity has nothing to do with Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. Trinity has to do with God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. There is nowhere there is Mother, Joseph, and baby Jesus. You see? But now what they did was they used to take that Trinity in the pagan things and apply it to Christianity. So they go on the Bible, they're like, hey, who can fit in this story of Trinity? Because them, they didn't understand Trinity is something Holy Spirit opened to you. That is something God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. They are three persons, but they are one essence, but three persons. God the Father is not God the Son. God the Son is not God the Holy Spirit. They are three in one. But an unbeliever, a natural man cannot understand the things of the Spirit. So they didn't understand it. That's why for them, they took literal people. They understood for you to have a baby, because they didn't understand how Mary had a baby. So for them, they understand to baby, you need a man, woman, child. So that is why they like to put Joseph, Mary, Jesus. They don't understand that Trinity is something to do with spiritual, God, not human. Some of the practices we do in Christmas is, and the origins, a Christmas tree. Remember, pagans used to have Christmas tree for their pagan god Satan. And that Satan is not the devil. Satan is a planet. Saturn. But in the occult, they believe that that Satan is also a planet. It's a planet that has no, is darkness. It's a planet that doesn't have light. So that's why they associate it with Satan. Because you know, Satan, they say, is of darkness, right? So hold on, let me pull this up. So Satan, the Christmas tree, it was a particular tree, the Everglade. Why that tree? Because the Everglade was green all the time. You know, like right now in America, in this season, a lot of the trees are brown because it's about to be winter. So the leaves fall off and they become like that, right? So in that time, that particular tree, this tree, it stays green all the time, whether there is rain, no rain. So for them, they understood it as symbol of life because it stay green all the time. Are you understanding why they use the Christmas tree, the pagan? Now, let me see. It was signifying eternal life. That is why they were using. Remember, not why you use it, why they were using it. And we can also see in Jeremiah, we are told that is the way of the heathen. We were given last time by Pastor Steve. Let's read it again. Jeremiah 10:1-5. Who were using trees as Jeremiah 10:1-5. It says, hear ye the word which the Lord speak unto you, O house of Israel. So who is the audience? House of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, Jeremiah 10:1-5. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. So you see, the heathen focus on the signs of heaven, the moon, the stars, astrology. Verse 3, for the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. Verse 4, they deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. Verse 5, they are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs to be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do so. You understand? So you can see, celebrating Christmas, you can celebrate Christmas, but now what do you do during this Christmas? You are celebrating, why? You want to meet with family, as we can honor God anytime. We know Christ was not born in December, because if the people who are feeding the cattle were out in December, because it says the shepherds were in the night. You know, when they used to go feed their animal, wintertime, shepherds are wintertime. Remember, December 25th is a time where the sun come out to signify the end of winter. So how can the shepherds of Israel, and remember that time there was winter, be out feeding the animals with what? The land is covered with what? With snow. So you know definitely Christ was not born December 25th. But if it's a day, it gives you a chance to meet and talk about Christ and celebrate him. You can celebrate him any day. You can even wake up another day and celebrate him. So long as your intention, you're celebrating Christ. Remember them, their intention on that day was celebrating a God, Tammuz, who is not Christ. But now some of the practices, like a Christmas tree, no. Because you can see this is a what? I mean, this is a heathen way of celebrating that day. You understand? Then, what does it show? They hang things on the tree and candles to represent what? Light is coming. You know, winter is over. Another part of this was, part of the celebration was Santa Claus. We see Santa Claus in every mall, right? Santa Claus. In the ancient Europe, he was like Santa Claus was a figure. His other name is called Saint Nick. You know, so in Europe, because Europe has many areas, it was Santa Claus. Santa Claus was known as a mythical figure because it's a person they never saw. You understand? It was a figure that would only come at night, and he would come to reward children. Also, if you were bad, it took you away. So it was a figure that, let me see here. A patron saint of the children, sailors, merchants, and students. Good children would leave out their shoes and receive gifts. People exaggerated who he was, and he became a magical nighttime visitor. The stories change depending on the region. So that is Santa Claus. And there's one part about him, and then it also says, with the Catholics, in Pope Paul VI, if you look at his other name in Rome for Santa Claus, because now the name changed according to region, he was called Saint Nicholas, Saint Nick. And you can read that in the Russian Britannica Encyclopedia. His other name was Saint Nick. Pope Paul VI removed the feast of Saint Nick from the Roman Catholic calendar in 1969. So all that time until 1969, it was removed. Why? You know why they removed? Because you know now information is being made. Now you know a lot of things that people back then didn't know. So what is another name of Saint? If you look at the old Oxford Dictionary, another name of the devil in the Oxford Dictionary, English, is devil, Beelzebub, Lucifer, and Saint Nick. So Santa Claus was a depiction of what? The devil. That guy, because he come at night and he come through the chimney. You understand? And he wear red. He wear red. You understand? There's a reason where he wear that exact, and then he come give children gifts. But that is the good part to hear. But it also says there were those who are the good children given gifts, and they say that was to instill obedience. But there were those who are naughty children who were taken and were never seen again. You understand? That is the Saint Nicholas. He was a moral examiner of children, a supernatural. So meaning something spiritual. It was a demon who rewarded obedience and punished disobedience. So at that time, if you are a bad child, you feared, because now it was known that you go missing, it would take you. So he had dark origins. It is just right now, because it's not a religious, Santa Claus is not viewed religiously. He's viewed secular. That is why you just see the good part where you get gifts, right? So now you have understood that. Also, there are some animals. I posted a picture of that Santa Claus, it shows they call them reindeer, right? Santa, Father Christmas, has some reindeers. Reindeers were a particular animal, and you can see every picture of Santa, every background is winter. So again, you know that winter, it was not Jesus Christ's birth, because first of all, in winter, shepherd will not be outside, because remember, the shepherd were outside. That's why they were able to see the sun, the star. Remember that star that led them to Jesus in a manger? When there's winter, the sky is not clear. You understand? There's darkness. You don't see the sky. So it had to be a day, not December 25th. Okay? So even if you look at pictures of Santa, he has reindeers. What are reindeers? How did they look at reindeers in that time? Reindeers were looked at spiritual guides, spiritual animal guides, guys. So these animal guides would lead Santa to the house of the child who was good, he leave gift, or to the house of the child who was bad, and they take all that. Okay? So that is about those reindeers. There's also something I saw called the Christmas wreath. I posted a picture of is that thing I put? I had the explanation of the wreath. It meant that wreath. It hold on. Let me look 1 second. I thought I put it in this note. So a wreath is a circular arrangement of plants with the evergreen. Remember that plant, that tree the leaves of that tree that's evergreen, showing fertility. Because remember, the gods, they like things about reproduction, fertility, the male organ, female organ. Any pagan god had to do something with fertility. So the wreath is a circular arrangement. Across the culture, the circle symbolizes many things: eternity, cycles of nature, the sun, okay? So the reincarnation. In Rome, Saturnalia, on the festival of Saturnalia, the wreath, Romans used a wreath during the festival of Saturnalia, the festival of triumph after they win a war, and winter celebration. And it was dedicated also to Laurel, who was also Apollo, the sun god. The wreaths symbolize victory of light over darkness and the continuation of life through winter. In German tradition, they symbolized life force during winter, that they invited protection, and that spirits favored evergreen spaces. That particular plant, the pine tree or something. They were placed on doors, in sacred groves, so in shrines, at solstice rituals when they were doing the rituals. So you can see some of those Christmas things, like here in America. Kenya, I don't think they do a lot of wreaths, but in America right now, if you go to everybody's door, majority of people have that round thing on their doors. And you ask them, they say it's a Christmas tradition, but they don't know where that tradition came from. You understand? So that's how it came. And in conclusion, because I'm going to conclude right now, what have we learned from this? Nothing is new under the sun, right? Things are repackaged and repackaged and repackaged and called different names. And because we are in the world, don't tell me I didn't post this thing. I had my conclusion. I think I've deleted it. I typed it out. Yep. That's why I like writing. I don't like you typing my notes. So, in conclusion, there is a verse I'd written down, and it's in Romans 14. Something has deleted my conclusion. I typed my paper out. What did I put? Romans 14:6. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so I was rearranging my notes when Bolaji was talking. I think I deleted my conclusion, but I'm gonna give what I have. Yeah, I forgot to put my conclusion. Give me 1 second. Command Z, Command Z, 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 Z. Command Z. Okay, I was able to reverse. So yes, my conclusion, Romans 14 verse 6. That one, Pastor Steve can more expound it. It says, he that regardeth the day, regardeth it unto the Lord. And he that regardeth not the day, to the Lord he doth not regard it. He that eateth, eateth to the Lord, for he give God thanks, and he that eateth not to the Lord, he eateth not, and give God thanks. So Christmas is a day you can comfortably celebrate, so long as you and your household celebrate it towards the Lord. You understand? If you observe it towards the Lord. Cook your food, eat with your family, and celebrate it. You understand? But now at least you know things like Christmas tree, saying Santa bring this. We are not going to put in that mix because you have understood. So you are observing it towards the Lord. In the time of grace, you're free, so long as it doesn't hurt your conscience. Okay. The early church from the book of Acts, we don't see anywhere where because remember, the church was founded based on what? The prophets and the law. So we don't see anywhere they celebrated Christmas. But remember, things and times change. But if you are celebrating to the Lord, you can celebrate it very comfortably. In the historical, when they look at the way the Jewish held their feast, and the weather and the way in the Jewish culture, they say approximately Jesus was born not in December 25th, but around September, from September 22nd to around September 24th, because that's the time the shepherds are out with their animals. Because you know, shepherds used to graze their animals, they had lots of animals. So when they go, wherever they reach, they sleep there. So that is why they were sleeping, and then they saw the star. Also remember, when the angel announced the birth of Jesus, the shepherds of Judah were feeding their flock. It can't be in December because in that area of Israel, around those times, there's winter. So that could not be the time. Also remember a very important one. This is the last one I want to leave you to show evidence that it was not December. When Jesus was born, it was around, remember they had issued a decree. Let me search for that verse. A decree had been issued where you travel back to your land to pay taxes. The decree. I want to see the verse. Luke 2 verse 1. In Luke chapter 2 verse 1, the time Mary had a baby in a manger, remember that is when they had taken Mary, Joseph. It came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made in Cyrenius, was governor of Syria. And all that went to be taxed, everyone into his own city. Verse 4 of Luke chapter 2 verse 4. And Joseph also went from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house of the lineage of David. Verse 5, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered, and she brought forth her firstborn son. So let me tell you, there was a special time of the year. If you were born in Kisii, it doesn't matter if you have traveled to Dubai. A certain time you had to go back to your homeland area and pay the taxes. So this shows in that time, a decree had been issued that you travel back to pay taxes to the area you are come from. So Mary and Joseph, the reason they were traveling when Jesus was born, they were traveled back to Bethlehem. You cannot travel during winter time because he was born in a manger. You understand? There was warm, it was sun. So we know he was not born in December where there is winter. Because remember, winter is a celebration of what? the solstice, the coming out of the sun. When there's winter, you don't see any sun. It's just gloomy. So the minute winter is over, you start seeing the sun. People tend to, when you're in winter, even here, people are in bad moods. People are gloomy. But when the sun comes, people rejoice. So this is also proof to show when they were traveling to Bethlehem, it was not winter. You could not travel during winter. You understand? You had to wait winter to be over. So that is further proof that Jesus was not born December 25th. So in my conclusion, it is to say, and hold on, and Pastor Steve will come and expound on that Romans 14:6. Remember, there was no mention of this holiday of Christmas until the 3rd century after Jesus' birth, because who started it? It was started by the Roman Catholic Church when they wanted to make a religion that followed worldwide. That is why it's called Roman Catholic Church. They took Roman traditions, mixed them up with Christianity, and even gave you a holiday. And so that it doesn't confuse the pagans, it doesn't confuse the Christian, they put Christian names. The pagan can put pagan name, you put any name you want, and so long as you celebrate it on that day. Remember, we were not commanded to celebrate his birth, but that's what I'm saying. In the time of grace, if you want to celebrate Jesus on the 25th, celebrate it with no problem. But now you see the trees and the Santa and the reindeers, you can see those have taken another meaning of their own. Another thing also, Paul never celebrated it. The apostles never celebrated it. And remember, those were used as the founders of the early church. So remember, you cannot command somebody don't celebrate or command somebody celebrate. It is up to you to celebrate it. But remember, if you're celebrating it, celebrate it up to the Lord. You can meet with your family, cook food, read Bible verses, talk about Jesus and how his birth and how he died for us and resurrected. You have honored a day in the Lord where you have brought family together. It just gives you a chance to meet family member and preach. So you use it wisely. Thank you so much, and you are blessed. Thank you. Pastor Steve, are you available? You can shed on that Romans 14 verse 6. I just wanted to hear your take. Are you there? Okay. Over back to Brother Bolaji. Thank you. Brother Bolaji is not here as well. Okay. So thank you so much, everybody, for staying until the very end. Well, at least we have learned. Does anybody have a question? Anybody with a question? Okay. Since anybody with a question or a comment? Yes, Brother Eno?
Yes, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you guys are. It's not so much of a comment, it's just that I was adding for what you has taught us today, that it's not everything that you do, whether it's a celebration that we usually do, it's how we understand what it implicates and the history and the basic true line of where it came from. So we understand that we have to be just as smart, and we have to be just be informed with the useful information So we can use that as a tool, though, so we can notice, use that discerning power and notice things are not of God or God's ways or righteousness. So we can always celebrate Jesus' birth every day if you want to. There's no specific day that we have to celebrate Jesus. Just imagine that He gave us that grace. We should celebrate His birthday every day. There will be no reason to have just one particular day. But if so, some choose because it's a traditional way. So we have taught us not to have all these ornaments and gifts. It wasn't purpose for that reason. For us, we are in spiritual. We know that it's purposeful just for having understanding the nature of his birth was redemption for our sins. So once we understand that, and all these other ornaments become nothing. All these other gifts and all these beautiful wraps that we always get on the on the Christmas trees, just become things of nonsense. We understand it's a day that we should even use it better just to go visit the hospital, help the needs, help feed up people, help people who have no clothes, or help up some needy people. That would be a function and a better way of serving Jesus on Christmas other than just celebrating eat pilaus and all this other good stuff. So thank you. That was just it. I was just meant to say that short prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Eno. Brother Bolaji. Anybody else?
Yes, Sister Sheila. I'm just waiting for people to ask questions.
Brother Bolaji, take over. There's no question.
I guess now we understand the origin of most of the holidays. Thank you, Sister Sheila, for that information. Thank you for edifying the church and for helping all the brethren understand how, the things of the world does not align with the things of God or the purpose of God, or that the things that they consider special is it has no bearing. It is the device of the enemy to confuse the world, to be able to, I call it the original fake, to make that original fake look like it's real, but it's still a fake. A fake will always be a fake. So thank you, Sister Sheila, for you did a wonderful job. Thank you so much. I hope that now that we know and we understand, some of us might not even um, come to the reality of this information and start wondering, hey, so I've been doing this for more than all of my life. Now I did. What am I supposed to do? You have to remember that once you become born again, you have become a new creature. You are not bound to the ways of the world anymore. The ways of the world are the ways of the enemy. The ways of Christ are truth and in spirit. So the things that you are starting to know now, the information you are receiving, will help you identify the things you are supposed to know, because you are supposed to know these things. So now that you are seeing the truth exactly how it is, you need to have that information so that you can know that, oh, now I'm doing the right thing, because you don't want to be a believer and then you are practicing the things of the enemy. That's just ignorance. My people perish because of lack of knowledge. That knowledge of you knowing the truth and the right things, now you have it. So thank you, Sister Sheila. Thank you so much. You have done a wonderful job connecting the past with the present and the present with the future. Thank you, everybody, for staying till the end. Since nobody has any question, Pastor Steve, do you have anything to add before we round it up for today? Is Pastor Steve there?
I think Pastor Steve fell asleep.
I understand. He has had a long day.
Right.
We appreciate you, Pastor Steve. You are blessed. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for staying till the end. Thank you for those of us that listened. Thank you, Sister Sheila. Thank you, Sister Anne, Brother Charles, Sister Mary the Elder, Brother Ian.